Can you hear me? Yeah. Well, it's great to have you here. Whoa, there's like amazing. Anyway, they put this on me, so that means I can walk around and not use my speech that I had prepared with podium that I can't use. So that's okay. So this is going to be very impromptu sort of a speech. So it's thanks very much for coming. It is a great honor to have this company. And Lucas, where are you? I can't see you. Thank you very much for the invitation here today. It's a great pleasure to be able to talk to your company officials, but also to be able to kind of give a recognition of Canadian expertise here in Vietnam. And it's a great opportunity. I've been here for about 2 years now, and it's been a great experience. My previous postings are 4 years in Tokyo as the Senior Trade Commissioner, involved there with a lot of high-tech innovation processes, all the trading companies and all the automotive companies in Japan for 4 years, and then off to the Caribbean, and Ambassador Suriname and High Commissioner in Guyana, and Canadian representative to CARICOM. So that was an interesting time, and then the opportunity, normally what they do is they say, oh, you finish your term, where would you like to go? So here's a piece of paper, write down 3 places you want to go, and pass it in, and they send you somewhere else. So, and that's normally how it works. But in this case, actually, Hanoi was very accomplished, and it was delighted to be able to have the opportunity to come. It is a fascinating country. It really is. It's one that is growing at such a rate that it's a little bit daunting. It has its problems, and sometimes, certainly earlier this decade, it had its problems from the point of view of excessive growth, and it had inflation rates up to 20%. So, you have a country here that is, you don't really feel, it is a communist country, and you don't really feel, though, that it actually is, because it's a free market, but rules and regulations that perhaps you don't see, I see all the time. But it's a very, it's people and government are very focused on making sure that they have growth that they can manage. And they've been pretty successful in doing it. Growth at this point is about 6%. That has been pretty consistent, and they've managed to be able to wheel down that inflation rate to 3-4% and 20%. So it has its issues, it has its problems. The banking systems can be stronger. They have a system of state-owned enterprises here, which is very typical of a communist state, but they are looking at equitizing, what's called equitizing, which is a different form of privatization. So they're limiting that. They have the state-owned enterprises themselves can be much more efficient, and they're in areas of perhaps their core issues. You have a transportation company, well, it's also in making rubber or confectionery items, or it has like 25 different parts to it that doesn't really have a lot more interest. So you see those companies that can't have one group growth. So the government is trying to be able to look at doing that with those companies over the next period of time. And I mentioned the banking system is one that always has a little bit of a challenge to it here. Let me see, one of the points I could talk about. It's really important as a sales team, delighted to be able to have a sales team here, because you're in all of these countries around the world. Guess what? So are we. So we have been there in most of these countries for many, many years, and we have a very skilled trade commissioner service that is able to give you a lot of help, especially when you're first going in, making sure that you get information quickly, contacts quickly. So I really do encourage you, wherever you are, to be able to take use of the Canadian Trade Commissioner service in all of our embassies. We have a Trade Commissioner service here with Marcel and Yuan and his team looking after the ITC sector. We also have another group basically focused mainly on agriculture and security and defense in Hanoi. So between both the consulate here and the embassy in Hanoi, we think we're making some very good progress. 2 years ago, our exports from bilateral trade, I should say, was about a little over $2 billion. In the last 2 years, it has grown 100% to 4.2. So we're very, very pleased with that. And we're seeing the country open up. Now, we just negotiated the TPP agreement, we have to get it ratified, so that is going to be able to bring some significant both challenges and benefits, particularly to Vietnam. In some cases, some of the reports that I've seen suggest that Vietnam is probably going to, of all TPP countries, is going to benefit the most. Currently has just moved from a lower income country to a middle income country. And that is, that means that once you graduate into a middle income country, a lot of the development assistance that you get, it kind of starts peeling away. And so while they say, oh, that's great, we've become a middle income country. And it lasts about 20 seconds, and they say, oh my God, we're going to lose all of this development assistance that we need. So they've had to be able to kind of reorient themselves to a much more sustainable approach on its development assistance. And that literally for us in Canada, we have a bilateral arrangement with Vietnam, about $20 million a year, to be able to provide development assistance. We focus on essentially two main areas. One, economic development, and one, I call it kind of institution building. We're working with the major ministries to be able to improve the regulatory situation, the banking situation. We're trying to get them up to Basel III regulations. We're looking at helping them develop more efficient laws in the National Assembly, and those sort of institutional elements. The other side of it is it's the kind of more traditional sustainable development side of things. You might not think it's a big thing, but when I started here, I went down to see a project, and it's a cooperative, and they said, it's that cooperative. And so we're going to start off with 50 families making, and we're going to give each of them a couple of milk cows, and they're going to come in and milk them twice a day, and they're going to send the milk off to a central collection agency, and they will, try and provide them with some sustainable income. We're talking a lot of money here. We're talking about average income here, so about a little less than $3,000 US per person on average. So this additional funds is a significant amount. Well, today, after 3 or 4 years, 3 years, there are 2,250 families doing this every day. And that is, for families, 2,250 families doing this has really provided that particular region with a very substantive economic base, and they don't have to be able to get 3 or 4 jobs. They can take this job and they can actually sustain their family on it. So it's those sorts of projects that kind of say, we're able to make a difference in small communities, big communities, and see the work that's being done actually, as opposed to waiting for it in the future, you actually see the end of it right now. Vietnam and Canada, we've had 40 years of diplomatic relations. Vietnam is a priority for us in our global market action plan, basically our commercial strategy, our development assistance, are one of the priority countries for Canada. It's also in education. This past week we've had 80 Canadian colleges, universities, schools visiting both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh to be able to talk to students about coming to Canada. Currently we have 5,000 students from Vietnam that study in Canada. And it's interesting because in the last little while I've looked at our education strategy, and I said, we've got 3/4 of our students from Ho Chi Minh. We got 1/4 from the north, from Hanoi area. And I said, why is that? So I went to speak to some other embassies around. I found out that the Brits, of course, they get 3/4 of theirs from the north and 1/4 from the south. I said, okay. I know that I'm talking with salespeople, so no need to preach the obvious, but obviously we're missing out on a big project, a big part of the market that the Brits are able to effectively penetrate. So how do we go about that? So I said, okay, there are schools that are in every single province, but there are some schools that stream, English speaking, French speaking, high scholastic elements. We targeted those particular schools over the last few months, and I went to visit them. And I'd have a group like here, and first thing I'd say is, how many people have been to Canada? And you would get 1 person. How many people have skied? How many people have snowboarded? No one. And it's like, and I do apologize for anybody here from Finland, but for me, it's like saying to Canadians, what do you know about Finland? You know it's a northern country. You know it's it's up there. It's not Helsinki. But what do you know about Finland? And a lot, I've heard people, but for most Canadians, it's like asking that question. And maybe wrong about that, but it's just that we are not told. And it's the same thing here in Vietnam. We have, for Vietnamese, what the Vietnamese know about Canada, we think, they kind of know what we know. Canada's such a huge country with such dynamic. It doesn't. So we have a lot of work to be able to do. So over the last month and a half, I visited about 15 schools, talked to over 2,000 students, and talked to them about Canada. And obviously, I talked to them about education opportunities in Canada. But I also talked to them about, how Canada is governed, the cities and things like that. And once I spoke to them, at the end of like a 30-minute presentation, they were coming up and sort of wanted to be able to know more about Canada, this and that. How do we get to schools? And it was wonderful. Over the last weekend, we normally get about 600 people at our fair in Hanoi. We had over 1,300. And here in Ho Chi Minh, on Sunday, we had over 2,000, almost 2,500. So it's a lot of demand that's created. So now what we have to be able to do is match those to the partner schools and the people. But the demand is growing and stable. One thing about Vietnamese, they have to be able to, they will spend, particularly this generation, that has been affected by war and by poverty. Once they have a job, they are so tenacious, they're so focused, they will save their money for the parents to be able to make sure their children will go to a good school. To Canada, to international work, they will spend the time, they are that focused on the work. And that's for your work here in Vietnam, and those that are dealing with the Vietnamese companies that are here, you'll see the same sort of tenacity and focus on what they wish to be able to do. And it's not just random. We have, I think, about over 150,000 international students coming out of Vietnam every year, and they do recognize the need to be able to find a place which has good education, which Canada does, wide range of programs that universities and colleges do. It's a safe place, it's a multicultural place, it's a welcoming place, and it's a safe place for the parents to be able to send their children by having a university or private school. So they have a definite plan, and they have a challenge, as you have right there. And they individually, they focus on that challenge and they overcome it. And they are the next generation of students coming out of Vietnam is going to be amazing. You're going to see growth over the next 10 years, certainly here in Vietnam. So take advantage of that. In my view, I'll take advantage of that. For us in looking back at what we do, we always, for many years, I was in trade for many years. I negotiated, part of the negotiating team for the WTO, for NAFTA, bilateral investment treaties for years, and did that before being posted to Tokyo. And it is, for me, I look at this as an experience and saying, we've had all of that time, and we're looking at trying to be able to develop a focus. We have focus essentially on the United States, and most of our trade was focused there. And people say, this is not a long-term strategy that is sustainable. We really need, at one stage, 80% of our trade was going into the United States because it was easy. We didn't have to translate anything. We had all the state border regulations. We had all the same. People would just ship their stuff down to the United States. When they realized that in the longer term, they have to diversify, and they've done that. And Asia is a very high priority for Canada, particularly for ASEAN nations here. And the last, we'll be announcing within the next few weeks a new ASEAN ambassador, basically to be able to coordinate all activities within the ASEAN area. We just, in the last month, put Chargé d'Affaires in Laos and another one in Cambodia. So now we have representation in every single ASEAN country. So it's a focus for us, and important as well too. So I don't want to be able to, you've got a lot of things ahead of you today. It's a little bit rambling, I do appreciate, but I didn't follow my script. I'm kind of glad. So it's I think one of the elements that's that our world is kind of serendipitous as to where you end up, and for us, I met my wife when I was 22, and we found out that we were born in the same town, in the same hospital, delivered by the same doctor, a week apart, and we didn't leave each other until 22 years later. So it was meant to be. So important elements from my end, and it's coming here for me. It's been a great pleasure. Enjoy yourself in Vietnam. It's a wonderful. I don't want you to enjoy yourself so much that you become a constant case and we get to see you again. I hope that you'll have fun within your parameters, but and I'm not sure if you've got a quiz for that or whatever. But we do hope that you have fun here. It's a great country, and it's one that I'm sure you'll enjoy. And come back as well too. And if you're ever up in Hanoi, don't hesitate to come by and sign a book at the embassy. We're right on Ho Chi Minh Square, and we're very close to the main part of downtown. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, everyone, and I do appreciate being here today. Thank you again.
Before Mr. Humboldt, the divine release stage, we have 3 important questions. We put the question on, yeah. Which city is Ambassador Honorable David Devine from? Let's start the voting now. And the answer is? Who had number 1?
They recognize the accent.
The next question. How long has Ambassador Devine been in Vietnam? And the answer
is 2 years.
So we're definitely right. So last question. What have been the overseas posting of Ambassador Devine so far? It won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long, till everybody's one. Every day. And the answer
is number 3.
There you go.
Well, number 4, I'd accept that one too, because we also never did it. There are no more to say.
Thank you. So let's do a quick one on the scores. Where we are. So the team scores. Strix. Where is Strix?
Yeah!
Where is Advocate? Advocate? And let's show the individual on the bottom. Scorefish. Who is Scorefish? Definitely time to wake up. And the individual scorer. What we will not do is the individual bottom score. Because Christmas suit, where is he? Very good. Alright, so we will do this now. Before we go to the next stage, let's say this is about challenges. And one of the challenges I had 2 days ago is sitting in the bar drinking with some of my colleagues and being up the next morning at 6 o'clock. And then people ask me, why did I go up at 6 o'clock? And I want to show you a little video why this is. If you can please. challenge to confidence. Yeah, let's say on behalf of everybody in sales, let's have a great team event. Yeah, the only thing I can say, Xin Chao Vietnam.